My dad's side, my paternal grandfather and my father were both entrepreneurs. And so I've got an ancestral connection there. And at a young age, I saw out of college at 22, I saw that my path would be very different from a mainstream path, and that I wanted to help this world that I saw struggling by doing the thing that helped me the most, which was connect deeply with nature and with my own purpose and vision in this life.
Welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast, where we bring to you the most successful, happy, fulfilled gentlemen from around the world who have been able to conquer themselves, their life, their marriage, and their businesses. You will be learning from four-dimensional gentlemen who have cracked the code to the science of having it all. The question is, how can married entrepreneurs with kids become gentlemen, achieve true freedom, and build a successful, happy, and fulfilled life, marriage, and business? This show will give you the answer for that. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I'm your host, and you're welcome to the Gentleman Success, Happiness, Fulfillment Talk podcast. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. As always, I have an incredible gentleman with me today that I'm very excited to get to talk to, learn from, and connect with. And before I introduce the gentleman to you, though, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you leaving comments, likes, and reviews on all the major podcasting platforms, and to those watching on YouTube as well. Thank you. And I also want to ask you for a favor. I want to ask you that if you get something out of this interview, if you get some type of value, some skill, insight, wisdom, knowledge, information, or the inspiration to go out and take action to move forward towards your goals, I want to ask you to please share this episode with 10 people. Share it with 10 friends. Share it on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram. Send the message to someone. Send the link to your mother or to your father. Send it to someone. Since this is how we grow, this is how we share our message to motivate, inspire, and bless other men and women out there to change their lives, to level up, and to tap into their God-given unlimited potential. And today I have Tim Corcoran. Is that right? Corcoran?
You got it.
Cool. Corcoran, he's the founder of Purpose Mountain, where he offers nature-based purpose guidance to support people with a love for wild nature who feel a deep yearning to discover their purpose. And Tim serves as co-director of Twin Eagles Wilderness School, an organization he co-founded with his wife, Janine, in Sandpoint, Idaho in 2005, dedicated to facilitating deep nature connection, mentoring, cultural restoration, and inner tracking. And he's a leader of Vision Quest, Holistic Rites of Passage, and Men's Group. And Tim has been facilitating spiritual initiations in the wilderness since 1999. I'm excited to talk about that, man. And healing the cultural rift between the mainstream and indigenous culture, transformation of consciousness work, the spiritual journey, ancestral work, deep nature connection, family and health are all deep commitments in his life. He's a husband, father, entrepreneur. I'm excited to have you, Tim. Thank you very much for being here, bro. And you are welcome, man.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
Tim, the first thing that I do with my guests, man, is I ask them to walk us through their entrepreneur journey in 75 seconds or less.
Okay. My entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less. Well, I can tell you that on my dad's side, my paternal grandfather and my father were both entrepreneurs. And so I've got an ancestral connection there. And at a young age, I saw out of college at 22, I saw that my path would be very different from a mainstream path, and that I wanted to help this world that I saw struggling by doing the thing that helped me the most, which was connect deeply with nature and with my own purpose and vision in this life. So as a result, I've founded two organizations. As you mentioned, Twin Eagles Wilderness School, that's been going for 17 years now, with the mission of connecting people to the natural world, as well as Purpose Mountain, which is newer, about 5-6 years ago, where my intention is to help people connect with a deep spiritual sense of purpose.
Deep spiritual sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, man. I think that what I'm doing, like I have a deep spiritual sense of purpose. Like I don't think that anything that I'm doing is about me. And even if I didn't want to do what I'm doing, I would have like this pull. I would have like this pull. And then if I didn't listen to that pull, I wouldn't be able to live.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel. That's what I believe in. And then, with that realization comes, like another like opinion or thought in which I believe that everyone has a purpose, right? That is also pulling them that they're not listening to, which is why they need drugs, alcohol, social media, and, food and that, those sort of distractions.
Absolutely.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, there's an old quote that I think of when you talk about the pull of vision, and the quote goes, this is from a spiritual teacher by the name of Michael Beckworth, I believe. And the quote says that pain pushes us until the vision pulls. Pain pushes us until the vision pulls. And what he's saying there is that any area in our lives, Alex, where we're out of integrity with ourselves, where there's been trauma or disconnection that needs some attention, needs some healing, needs some awareness, will bring forth pain in our lives and ask us to address that in a deep way. And we can either do that consciously through inner work or healing work or what have you, ceremony, or we can do it in an unconscious way, which is what you're talking about: drugs, alcohol, addiction, so on and so forth. And so it's like the universe or soul, if you will, right? It's this idea of soul being that if there's a place deep within us that knows our purpose, different from our mind, different from our ego, then that would be our soul. That's one way of saying it. So it's like soul is orchestrating these experiences, these painful moments in our lives, asking us to address them, to heal them, to come to terms with ourselves, so that on the other side of that, when we have done the majority of that healing work, addressing that pain, that we can then get to the second half of the quote, vision pulling us. And, it's just a quote. It's not a perfect model, but I think there's a lot of truth to that.
And you explained it beautifully, man. So then you were able to like align with this like inner purpose from a very early age, right? Like very early on. Since the time that you realized that you weren't going to go on a traditional path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had like your own like pull, or I don't know,
Yes.
maybe it was a push caused by pain. So how was it, and how did you stumble upon it, or how did you discover that push or pull?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was a push and a pull, Alex. So yeah, I'm 48. I grew up in the 80s in the Midwest in Indiana. On the one hand, I had a beautiful childhood. This is pre-internet. This is like 3 channels on TV and maybe one good show a week. So most of my childhood days were actually spent outside roaming the woods with my buddies.
Cool.
A lot of good moments there, and there were a lot of difficult moments too. I faced a tremendous amount of bullying. My parents got divorced when I was 15, and I faced some childhood abuse when I was younger. And so also, I was always a sensitive kid, emotionally sensitive, spiritually sensitive. And I remember being a kid looking around, feeling, I don't know if you remember this, but just feeling so alive. Like every day there was going to be some new adventure. There was some new exploration to be had. Like I was fully alive as a boy, and my buddies were too. Like all of us kids were. And yet I would look to the adults around me, and it seemed like they were sleeping, like they were, I don't know, zombies or sleepwalking or something. Like the question I had in my heart was, where did this zest for life go?
As a boy, you had that thought?
Yeah. I had that realization. I was like, and most importantly, I wondered, and what's going to happen to me? Am I going to like fall asleep to life just when I turn 18 or 21 or something? Or am I going to stay connected with something beautiful? Now, I can't tell you that these exact words went through my head, but this was a feeling I had in my heart growing up as a boy. So fast forward, by the time I graduated high school and went to college, played by all those rules. By the time I finished college, I was like, you know what? This whole American dream thing is a pipe dream. It's not functioning. Look at divorce rates. Look at how unhappy people are. People are chasing fame and money and security. And there's on the whole, there's very few people connecting with that deep, sustaining sense of purpose, something fulfilling, something that when they die, they'll be able to look back on their deathbed and say, I lived this life fully, regardless of whether I was rich or poor or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want. And as a kid, when I struggled, I always went to nature. That was one thing I had. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people who showed up for me, guiding me, but I did have the natural world. And that's where I found my peace and my solace. And so whether it was intuition or fate or what have you, when I graduated college, I had just one connection on the Navajo Indian Reservation in Northeast Arizona. And I had this strong feeling that the indigenous people of North America had something important to offer, at least me. But my belief was our society as a whole, that somehow culture, the modern culture, had gone off track. And that the people living close to the earth, I believed, still had some wisdom to offer us. So at 22, I moved out. Actually, the day after I graduated college, I got in my truck. I drove, I think, 40 hours nonstop to Northeast Arizona to meet my friend and try to make my way. There were a lot of ups and downs and stops and starts, but in the end, I was able to find a pathway and learn from indigenous teachers, Alex, to help open my eyes to the things that modern culture had forgotten. And, long story short, I did a 5-year apprenticeship with a wilderness school that was working with a number of different indigenous teachers and elders. And I was able to learn from some very, very wise individuals to fill in cultural gaps, if you will, about how our modern society got to the struggles where we're at on the whole, and what steps we might be able to take to remedy that. And at 20, a big part of that, I should say, is the vision quest. There's this old ceremony that's actually found worldwide in any of the traditional earth-based cultures. So people oftentimes associate it with the Native American tribal customs, but in reality, it's a practice that is present worldwide. And the basic idea of a vision quest is to go out into wild nature, take 4 days with a singular intention where you're fasting, maybe drinking water, but a singular intention, Alex, of who am I really and why am I here? Why did I uniquely take birth on planet Earth at this time? My life is not a mistake. It's not random. There's some reason I'm here. There are some unique gifts I have. I need to know what those are. And I am not willing to move forward in my life until I can make some kind of connection with that and let that be my guiding force forward.
That's exciting, man.
Yeah.
So is that what Vision Quest is about?
Yes, that's exactly what it's about.
And that's what's happening this November, I believe?
I now lead Vision Quest, and I lead them a few times a year. But at 24 years old, I went on my own first Vision Quest, and that's what happened. And during that time, I got clear that my calling, yes, is to be a husband. My calling is to be a father. My calling is to connect deeply with nature and help share that with others. And ultimately, I saw that my calling was to help others on the healing journey, which I was going through, as well as connect others with their own vision, their own purpose. Sometimes I use those words interchangeably. There's vision and purpose. And Alex, that was in the year 2000. So it's 22 now. It's 22 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that image, that vision, that picture, that purpose has been guiding me ever since.
So, man, I feel like I'm living.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm living. Yeah. I feel a deep sense of purpose. But let's see. What can I ask? How can, selfishly enhance that? Can you enhance that? Well, yeah, of course, right? Maybe.
Absolutely.
Right? And, but first of all, well, obviously, go to Vision Quest if you want to find, and get this deep sense of purpose. Bro, I think on your website, it's going to happen in November. And
September, actually. Yeah.
September?
Yeah.
Then count me in, man. Let's see.
Okay.
I think it was November, and I was like, I'm getting married November, September.
Oh, wow.
23.
Congratulations.
On November. I'm getting married in November. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's September 23 to October the 2nd. Bro,
Yes. Yeah,
I'm about to pay right now.
Okay.
like right now, I'm gonna go. I'm a little bit fearful because
Yeah.
like I've never been in nature, like in nature so much, like for so long. But I'm extremely like excited for this. Like I'm about to be part of this. I'm looking forward to see you there, man. I'm so excited.
I would love to have you. Well, let me share a little bit more, right? Like these days, when people hear the word purpose, what I've found, Alex, and I'll be curious where you're at with this, right? But what I find is that people, especially men, tend to associate purpose with physical actions or things that we can do in the world. Start a business, get married. And look, I'm the same way. But what I've found over 20 years of experience walking this path is that the deepest sense of purpose does not get expressed through any particular action, but it's more a way of being.
Yeah.
Right. That we're human beings. And I don't say that in a cliche way. I mean, like, who am I being in this moment? How am I showing up, whether I'm, with my family, whether I'm at work, whether I'm buying groceries at the checkout aisle? Who am I being in any given moment? And how can that be the greatest expression of who I am? Now, what we're trying to do here is actually put a finger and define something that may be impossible to define.
Yeah.
The question is like, what is my essence as a unique human being? I don't know that there's any way to finally and ultimately define that and put it into words. But what I can tell you is that through time slowing down, connecting with nature, when I'm letting go of all of the doing, and I'm surrendering, if you will, to a certain way of just being myself in the deepest way that that's possible, surrounded by the natural world, nature will mirror that back to me. It'll reflect myself back to me. And it's in those moments that where I have experienced, and many, many others, and I believe the deepest sense of purpose can be revealed to us. And then from there, yes, Alex, I mean, we need to take that deep insight or revelation or confirmation, take that and express that into the world. Yes, there are actions that are needed. Yes, our world's in trouble. There's healing work to be done on so many levels. There are actions to be taken, but not mindlessly and not from this sense of, I've got to start this business or whatnot in order to prove to myself that I'm worthy. No. It's taking those actions that are fueled by this deep sense of, I know why I'm here. I know who I am. I don't need to prove that to anyone. And yet this is a unique opportunity, this short life that I have. And I do need to make the most of this and make an impact in the biggest, most beautiful way on this earth.
That sounds like taking a weight off your back, like a weight off your back.
Oh, hugely so. Hugely so. But that goes back to the quote, pain pushes until the vision pulls, right? Like, look, the reality is we've all faced trauma. You've got your story. You shared some of that with me, and thank you, when we first connected. I've got mine. I'm sure our listeners have theirs. We all have that. I think it's actually built into the journey of life, certainly these days. And I've asked big questions about that. Like, man, why is it that we have to face so much pain? Why is it? And I'll still, like, when the day I die, man, I will go to Creator, and I will. That's going to be probably my first question. It's like, so really, from your perspective, the big one upstairs, why is it? I know what I've come to. What I've come to is that much like nature, well, how can I appreciate day if it wasn't for night? How can I appreciate the warmth of summer if it wasn't for the coldness of winter? Yeah. How can I appreciate the beauty of being healed if it wasn't for the pain of the wounds I've faced? So I think it is in this back and forth where we really find ourselves and where we really find the value of life. And yet it's still tough, right? When things are tough, they're tough, and there's no denying it. There's pain and suffering is a real thing in this world. And so The question is just, how do we make meaning out of that? How do we respond to that? Does that take us down? Do I walk the path of alcoholism or drug addiction for the next 80 years? Do I find a way to make meaning out of that and let that fuel me in a positive way, which you're clearly doing? I know I'm doing my best to do that, and I really encourage others to do the same.
Yeah. So then appreciation and gratitude, that might be, that's my understanding from what you're saying. Appreciation and gratitude might be the reason of all the suffering that we go through.
I think it may be, it's an interesting topic. Another way to look at this is, and this is a conversation I love to have, is happiness contrasted with meaningfulness. Like what I'm saying, is the goal of life to be happy, or is the goal of life to have a meaningful life? I know for years I went through the phase of the goal was to be happy. I wanted that hit, that serotonin, that positive hit. And for a lot of those years, I was not willing to face my dark side, my shadow, the pain, the trauma I had faced, and I would just turn it off and put on the smile. That was a long time ago. But what I've since come to is that in the fullness of life, yes, there's happiness, but there's also sadness. There's also anger. There's also guilt. There's also shame. Those aren't necessarily things I want to, dwell in, but they're important teachers, and I've never met anybody who didn't experience those things, right? So this is almost like the realm of emotional maturity. Am I willing to feel the full range of emotions that come my way? Not to get locked up in the negative cycle, but to be with what is, at least enough to get the message and be conscious and be present. And in that, we find meaning, in that, like sadness, in the last year or so, my mom passed away, and it was an incredible time it still is an incredible time of grieving and sadness. And you know what, Alex, I wouldn't trade that sadness for the world. I wouldn't, man. It was like, it's been one of the most beautiful things of my life. I find a deep joy. This may sound paradoxical, but I find a deep joy in that sadness. Yeah.
That's cool.
Because why do I feel sad? Because I love her.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to feel sad. I don't want to bypass that. I don't want to, or if something happens to someone I love and I get angry, why do I feel angry? Because something important was violated. I need to stand up for that. I don't want to bypass that. I don't want to go, cause a ton of violence either. But I need to be with that, right? And it's through that, all of those emotions, then we find meaning. And so coming back full circle here, I know we hit a tangent or two there, but I really see that as the point, is to be able to find meaning in life. And I know gratitude is a very popular thing these days. And listen, I have a personal gratitude practice. I practice it every day, every morning. But I do think there's more to it than just gratitude from my perspective.
Tell me well, first of all, is life about being happy or about having a meaningful life? All right. That's a question that is worth to sit within the answer, right? To ask a question and then sit within the answer to see what you receive. But I really like it. I really like that question. And I think it's meaningful because, for example, today it's 1 p.m. and I've had 8 calls.
Yeah.
So I'm not happy, right? But it's meaningful, right? I'm having calls, the calls have been meaningful, and I'm tired, but I know that those calls are making an impact on people's families and on men as a husband and on woman as a wife, and on businesses and to their clients. I know that that's having an impact, and I'm enjoying it. I have joy, feeling what's the word that I'm looking for? Tired, right?
Yeah. And it's that good tired. Because what I'm hearing is you've given of your heart. It's what it sounds like. You've expressed yourself, and you're gonna feel a degree of tiredness from that. But isn't that what we want? We've only got this little bit of life energy. What are we gonna do with it? We're gonna waste it away? We're gonna save it forever? No way. Life's meant to be lived. And the question is just, how do we expend that energy, and can we do it meaningful ways. I mean, that's been my intention, purposeful ways. Yeah.
You put it beautifully, man. Like I'm gonna re-listen to my own interview to
Nice.
try to model your words and the way that you describe all of these things that we're talking about. And then you talked about emotions, right? That how you get the message from it by being conscious about them and being present. A lot of people talk about controlling emotions.
Oh yeah.
Are emotions to be controlled?
Well, it's a whole big conversation now. Emotional maturity would be the topic that I would call this portion of the conversation. And it's been something that's been very significant in my life. I put a lot of attention towards. As I said, since I was a little boy, I've been very emotionally sensitive, for good or bad, blessing or a curse,
Yeah.
Like in a fourth grade locker room, it feels like a curse, but these days doing the work I do, I know the truth that it's a blessing. Because I couldn't help people the way I do if it wasn't for my sensitivity and my ability to be present with others, to read them, right? So our emotions to be controlled.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, yeah, go ahead.
You feel powerful to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Right? This that emotional sensitivity, like I can feel that emotional sensitivity, but it's powerful to me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I've learned to see it in that way myself. I recognize that's where my power comes from, that sensitivity, as well as directly from the earth, So the way I define emotional maturity, Alex, is the ability to be aware of, accept, and express our emotions. Those three things: awareness, acceptance, and expression of emotions. And when I say expression of emotions, I mean expressing emotions in healthy, constructive, generative ways, right? So, let's start with awareness. Am I even able to notice that emotions are present? Am I conscious of the fact that I'm angry, that I'm full of joy, that I'm sad?
Most people are not, right?
There's certainly in our modern culture, we're not trained to be. The modern culture tends to stimulate us in all kinds of ways to have us avoid that, or just go for the happiness. Give me my next Facebook like, give me my next quest completed on the video game. Anything but to feel what's actually real in my heart. So that's a journey, just learning to notice what emotions are present. And then there's the question: okay, once I've noticed it, can I accept it? What if I feel shame? What if I feel anger? What if I've been taught that I can't feel anger because I've seen people get hurt with anger, and so I need to turn that off? Or I can't stand the thought of, the possibility that I might, not be important in this world, so I'm going to avoid my shame. Can I be aware of these things? And is there another person or a group who can support me to just be present, without judgment, to just be present with those things, to feel them, to let them rise up in my body, not as a thing in my head, but as a feeling in the body. And then from there, can I express them? Wow, I feel like shit. I'm so sad, angry right now. Or, oh my God, I'm so alive. I'm so joyful. I'm so thankful right now. As men, especially, there's the old story that real men don't cry. And so what? We're allowed to be happy, kind of, not too happy. And maybe anger. Anger would be the other one that's allowable. But sadness, no way. Fear, definitely not. Shame, right? And so can I find ways of, in a healthy way, in a regenerative, constructive way, to express those emotions? And listen, one way to look at it is that emotions are a way that our purpose is actually speaking to us. Like the whole, again, back to our first quote, I really love that we started with that: pain pushes until the vision pulls. If pain's pushing me because I had some trauma as a kid that I need to come to peace with, then guess what? The only way I can come to peace with that is by being present with the emotions that are in my body and finding a way to express those things in a healthy way. I mean, that's unavoidable.
Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track Framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the Cloak Track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. Aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle that helps you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the Cloak Track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the Cloak Track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast Cloak Track Framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary, free, absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
And it's through that process that we can move beyond all of those limits and ultimately be driven, by purpose and by vision.
I'm definitely going to go to your event, man.
Well, thank you.
I don't know why I feel a pull to this to these things, like to the kind of things that we're talking about right now, like spiritual things and emotions and God.
Well, I think you've got it right. So it's the gentleman's SHF. Is that success, happiness, and fulfillment. I think it's right there. Like success to me, like how do we define those things? Like what's real success? Well, to me, real success is I've been a good dad, right? I have 2 sons. They're 12 and 15. That's a daily practice for me. Success is I've been a good husband. Success is I've left this earth better than I found it. That it's a little bit better for the next generation than it was when I got here. At least the circles that I've touched, the people's lives, the places I've been. Happiness. We were talking about the happiness versus meaning thing, and happiness is important. Don't get me wrong, Alex. It's a big one, and it's needed today for sure. And then, of course, fulfillment. And that's the big one at the end of the day for me. Fulfillment. I believe the deepest fulfillment comes when we walk our purpose, when we walk our vision in this life, and that means discovering it and deepening it as we move along. So I can tell you're a very driven individual. You've got this huge fire in you, this big passion. You've faced some shadows. You've faced the darkness with your own path and your family and everything. Your dad that you shared about. It looks to me from meeting you here that you're a person who's on a journey of consciousness, of really asking the bigger questions and wanting to experience that ultimate fulfillment. So it's no surprise that that there's this resonance.
Yeah. So how I like to believe that I am very driven. I am like walking this meaningful path. Is that something like that you can feel? Because like right now, I have this gift, man. Like it's crazy. Like I jumped on a call with I just hired like 8 more people. Yeah. Because my business that I have here in the US, I'm taking it to Mexico. Right. And I'm going a little bit crazy, but like I can speak Spanish. So like I gotta share this thing that I have with everyone. Right. And I was like, I got on a call I have a recruiter. He got like 20 people on a call. And then I just asked everyone to like tell me about them, like what they do and their name and, who they are and stuff. And then I just felt like this one is it. Like, and I was just like taking notes, and then I would put a mark on the people that like made me feel a certain way. Yeah. I can't explain it because I don't have the words, but, and then at the end I was like, okay, like you, and you are hired. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like and it's been working. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, it sounds to me like you're tapped into your intuition, and that you're sensitive enough to notice those things, and that you're willing to act on those things. Those little feelings like that we get, because I get those all the time. Sometimes I'll get them with students, or participants in events. Sometimes I'll get them with my own mentors. Yeah, sometimes I get them with employees or partners. I believe that's soul, the mystery, the universe, God, however you want to fill in your choice of words there. But that's the world, the mystery of life speaking to us. And that those people have something to teach us. So I look at it more complex than just that's going to get me to where I want to go, or that's going to help me meet my goal of success. But they have an important life lesson. There's something I need to learn from them, and that there's something I need to offer them, because it's a give and a take always. Yeah.
Cool. You explained it really well. Cool. I like that.
And I'm glad to hear you're following that. I've followed that too. And that is part of what's helped me find the success that I've had, and that's gotten me to this point.
Awesome. So I have a really important question that I want to ask.
Yeah.
Because I know that you're a husband and a father, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually just started this other podcast called Understanding a Modern Queen, in which I interview women, right? Like really successful women that have that make power couples with, their modern king as well. And that's because a very important part of being a modern gentleman is, being a husband and a father, having your queen on your side, building this empire with you, and and then preparing the next generation to keep on growing that legacy, or to express their greatness at the best of their capacity.
Oh, and Alex, I apologize. You were just breaking up there. I don't know if that was my internet or yours. Right. I lost maybe about 30 seconds of what you said there.
Okay. Are we back?
But we're back. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. So I think the last thing that you heard me said was that I started the Modern Queens podcast, interviewing women, right, that are like successful and that are operating on a high level and that are power couples with men. And the reason I did this is because part of being a modern gentleman is having, your modern queen on your side, building this empire, or, impacting people and growing and contributing to the world. And also, being able to like prepare the next generation to do the same, right? Preparing them for the purpose to grow and to contribute. And so my question then is, like, these emotions that that we talked about, like being aware, accepting, and then expressing your emotions, and and how your emotions are like they're communicating your purpose to you, and by being able to work with them is how you can find it, and all of this. How are you teaching this to your kids? Like, my daughter is 3, and I want to show her all of this. Like, I know, like, she is definitely here for a purpose. Everyone is, right? But there's no doubt that, like, I don't think it was an accident that she survived everything that she went through.
Absolutely.
And then now she's here. So I want to let her know that. Like, I want for her to know that. But I think I'm doing it, but I don't know exactly how to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's such an important question, and I'm so glad you asked it. And listen, I love working with youth. I mean, as I said, I'm a father. At our wilderness school that I started 17 years ago, we work with adults and youth. But the truth is, we probably work with, I don't know, maybe 60% kids and about 40% adults. So I've worked with tens of thousands of youth and hundreds of youth over long-term relationship. I mean, I have some youth, Alex, that I've been working and mentoring for 10, 15, in some cases 20 years. And it's such an important question. If we're really going to make a difference in this world, sure, we can work with adults. And these days, it's probably a little bit more sexy. And the truth is, it's probably more financially lucrative. But if you really press me on it, where are we going to have the biggest impact on the world? I honestly believe it's working with kids, because they're still developing. They haven't gone, they're still just developing. It's like, in a lot of ways, as adults, our loaves, we're kind of cooked. If to use a loaf of bread analogy, we've been cooked, and we're kind of cooked by the time we're 18, But when you work with a child, that spirit, that mind, that body, that heart is still just developing. So it's a really important question for any of us working to make the world a better place is, how do we work with our youth? And this really important question you're asking of how do I, especially as a father, how do you teach your daughter this emotional maturity? The biggest way, and there's a lot of data and science to back this up, and I think it's just common sense as well. And the biggest thing is role modeling. It's less about what you tell her and the talks, and all that. It's much more what will influence her, as all kids, is how she sees her father, especially interacting with her mother. How you and your soon-to-be wife, your fiance, actually handle emotions, and what the education that your daughter will get I would say will be primarily based on that. As a dad of two, I have two sons, 12 and 15. Now they're in the teenagers. My youngest is about to turn 13. I'm seeing the results now of everything my wife and I did, over the last 15 years, the good and the bad, the times when we really showed up and were able to express ourselves in healthy ways emotionally, and the times when we didn't, and because they will be a reflection, our children will, of us, emotionally speaking. So the more you can have healthy practices of demonstrating to her, just look at it from like the opposite gender perspective. You are her first human being that she's going to pattern on of what is a man. Father, that's for all kids. If a father's around, that's the first definition a human being gets, for better or worse, of what is a man, is their father. And then vice versa. Of course, the mother is the first definition of what a child gets of what is a woman. So does a man never cry? Does a man stuff all his emotions and drink to, or do drugs to deal with them on the side? Or does she see him express the full range of what it is to be a human being? How does he handle his anger? How do you handle your anger? And is it in healthy and constructive ways? Do you bypass it? Does it come out in violent ways? All these things are teaching through experience. I'm an educator, so I've spent a lot of time into how does education happen? And the bottom line is it's all experiential. We as human beings learn by doing and by what other people are doing around us. The whole kind of mainstream academia approach of learning through textbooks and tests and all of that, it's not really functional, and B, it's not really real. People learn through experience, not through textbooks. I think this is common sense. Yeah.
A lot of amazing insights, man. So then I'm getting like this thought. All right. So what is a man? That's like the question that will be answered by how you show up in your family as the father of your kids, right? That will be the question that will be answered based on how you show up, right? Like who you are, what you do, and like who you are, right? Like the example you set. So then you can, like, anyone could choose to answer that question, what is a man, and then show up the way you want that answer, that question to be answered.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. And I think too, what's really important is that all of us, especially as parents, that we all are on an ongoing journey of being life learners, that I can demonstrate to my sons that, hey, I'm a human being. Okay. I'm 48 years old. I've learned a lot, but I'm not perfect. I've still got things to learn. I want to be a lifelong learner, and I want them to as well. So the biggest way I can encourage that is by modeling it. And so there's a degree of humility in there. Yes, I want to be that rock for them. And yes, I want to let them know, hey, I'm not perfect. And that's okay. Because what does that tell them? They're not perfect either. And if it's okay. And then it's okay. Exactly. They're not a failure because they screw up. But if they see me living that, that's going to be the number one thing that's going to empower them to be okay with it. On the other hand, if they see me constantly beating myself up and I got to be a perfectionist and I always got to get it right, and I can never make a mistake. Man, come on. What do you think they're going to pattern? How do you think they're going to be when they grow up? It's pretty, it's common sense. It's common sense.
I like it. I really like it. So, man, we have, like 5 minutes.
Sure.
And I have 5 questions that I want to ask.
Great.
The first one is, if you could give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would that be?
My 20-year-old self. Oh, boy. I would say to my 20-year-old self, I would tell him, you are worthy. You are important. You have a place here in this world. Your voice matters. I know there's part of you that probably doesn't believe that, but I'm telling you, you matter.
Thanks, man. I took it all for me. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm still feeling it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And then, feel free to take it as well. Like anyone listening, feel free to take that as well.
Yes.
Bro, I've been needing that all my life, So
it's a big one. It's a big one. I'll tell you what, Alex, I've done a lot of healing work with people. And at the end of the day, I would say 95% of like emotional or heart wounds come down to that. Am I worthy of love? Like we, as human beings, we all wonder that. And I lived 30 years of my life not believing that was true. But ultimately, because I followed my purpose, I walked the healing road and I found, oh my God, I actually am. Doesn't mean I'm better than somebody else, but I am important. I am worthy of love. And that's true for every human being that's alive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
The second question, man, is a mindset shift. What is a mindset shift that you've gone through that you can share that you think, has contributed to all of this, to this purpose, growth, and to the contribution and the success that you're having in the world, the success, the fulfillment, all of that, a mindset shift.
Yeah. So this one might be a little more intangible or even difficult for people to relate with, but I would say this is probably the number one most important piece in my experience and in the experience of people I work with. And the most simplest way I would put it is 3 words. I am nature. So what I mean by that is, as modern people, most of us have been raised, in modern systems, and we've been raised away from the natural world. And so as a result, we have disconnected from our natural self, our natural gifts. And when we come back to wild nature, this is part of what happens in the Vision Quest and part of what I've done with my work at the Wilderness School. We come back to experience ourselves as part of this earth. Like, as human beings, we all evolved from planet Earth. We didn't get dropped off here from Mars. And even if we did, that too would still be nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is nature, but we've forgotten it. We've lost that. And what I've found is that for myself and the people I've worked with is that when people not just understand that in the head, that's not what I'm talking about, but feel it in their bodies and their hearts and their spirits and their souls, it brings a tremendous, tremendous transformation online.
Yeah.
And it helps with everything we're talking about here. People talk about it like this, Alex. They say, when I went on, they'll say this on Vision Quest or at other events, they'll say, I didn't know it, but it was like there was a veil, an invisible veil separating me from the natural world. And through this experience, the veil disappeared.
Oh, I want to experience that, man.
But I didn't even know the veil was there before because I'd never even thought about it, or whatever. But that dropped, and then people can say and mean it. I know I'm part of this earth. I know I have a place. And that is a really important connection to purpose and vision, because ultimately I would say when I look at purpose, I wouldn't say it's a spiritual thing. I would actually say it's an ecological thing, meaning how do I fit in this great puzzle of life?
That's really cool.
And I know that's different. I know and it's not too common to even think in those terms. But I'm telling you, when people make that shift, it does worlds of difference, makes worlds of difference in people's lives.
And I've heard your story as to how you made that, like how you were able to experience that, not intellectually, but like emotionally, you were able to like internalize that and feel it
in the
your
body,
bones, right?
Yes, in my bones, absolutely.
And I want to experience that because I intellectually understand it, but I don't think that I feel it. Yeah. So I'm excited to and then if anyone else like wants to, like experience this, the event, how's it called, bro? It's called so
the event is it's a live in-person event called the Wilderness Vision Quest, and I host it through my organization Purpose Mountain. It's a 10-day event. Our next one is scheduled up here in Idaho, where I live, late September this year, 22. Yeah.
I'm going. The next question, man, is if you could give a woman woman trying to become this modern queen, right? What advice would you give to her?
Great questions here, Alex. What I would say is trust your innate power. If you were to ask me of the two genders, who's the more powerful one, I'd have to say it's women. Look, every human being alive, think about this for just one moment. Every human being alive and every human being who's ever been alive came from a woman's body.
Yeah. Period.
Everybody. They have the power to create life.
That's crazy. And
culturally speaking, we're still in the kind of latter stages of this patriarchy of women's power being repressed. And I believe one possible change we're in the midst of is moving away from kind of the overly masculine dominated world and finding real balance. But in order for that to happen, we need women who are empowered. I certainly need my wife to be empowered. I certainly want to see all the girls and the young women and the women and the elderly women all empowered in this world. When I'm around empowered women, my life is better and the community is better and the natural world is better for it. So that would be my biggest piece, is to trust your own power.
Awesome. So that brings up a question. What is my innate power? I'm going to sit with that question until I receive an answer.
Well, and that's a question for a Vision Quest, for sure. That's a question that many, many people ask during Vision Quest, and many, many people find an answer to.
Cool. I've gotten really good at finding answers, man. I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I think that's my innate power. I don't know. Maybe I think that's a power that everyone has, but not everyone uses.
Yeah.
But I just ask questions, and then I get answers.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And sometimes what's important to remember is that the question, I think, is actually more important than the answer.
Asking empowering questions. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Like, we've got to ask good questions, because that's real learning. That's real education, is asking good questions. Like, if you've got a good question, you're curious, you're passionate, you want to know, you're going to find the answer. It's going to come, but we got to tap into that curiosity. We got to tap into that passion. And that's what I really help people do, but for you, it's clear. That's a natural gift you've got, is that passion.
I'm going through my life from question to question.
Yes, exactly.
It's pretty cool. And then it's even cooler when I found the answer, like another person in a podcast, and then like when I allowed myself to actually see and hear and do and apply, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty cool, man. My last question is same thing, but to a man. What would be your advice to a man trying to become this modern king? What would be your advice to him?
Well, I think the writing's on the wall. We've already been talking about it, but I would say slow down, connect with nature, and discover why you're really here. What's your purpose? What's your vision in this life? And let that be your rocket fuel to launch you forward.
But slow down, connect with nature, and find out why you're here. That's powerful, man.
Yeah. Until a person does that, chances are wounds will unconsciously be driving that man forward, unless he's done that work of slowing down, connecting with nature. Maybe I might add in there, heal yourself, take the healing journey, address those, whatever wounds might be present for you. And yeah, find out why you're here.
Awesome. Well, Tim, I've really like the time went really fast. That means,
yes, it did.
It was probably because I really enjoyed it. Just hearing you, you're like such a wise man. I'm really grateful and thankful to have had the opportunity to learn from you and connect with you and talk to you. And if, anyone else out there like felt this and they want to know more about you, they want to find this, this purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like their purpose. Where could they go to find more of you? Where would be the best place?
Best place is just my website, Alex. So it's purposemountain.com. It's www.purposemountain.com, just like it sounds. I've got a bunch of info on there, free downloads, PDFs, links to other podcasts. I've done lots of podcasts over the last several years, and all of my bigger offerings are there as well. Awesome.
And then there's a button that says Vision Quest, where that's like the events that you're hosting. I'm here.
Yes.
And I'll see you in September. Like, when is it?
Beautiful. September 23rd. Yeah. 2022.
To October 2nd. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And in the mountains, in the forested mountains of Idaho.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Indeed. Yeah.
So, Tim, thanks, man. I really appreciate
you. You're so welcome. Yeah.
And I'll see you later.
Thank you, Alex. Alrighty.
Thank you for watching the Gentleman Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with one friend, leave us a comment, and let us know. 99% of people never leave a review or comment, but we love and are very thankful with the 1% of you who do. If there's something or someone you want to see on this podcast, send me a message on Instagram at Alex_Ramirez1020 and let me know. As a thank you for that, I have an amazing surprise for each and every one of you who does take the time to leave us a comment or review on YouTube or one of the major podcasting platforms